Hey everyone, Jeff here. Welcome back to Next Level Sax. Today you're about to get something truly special. This isn't just another lesson or a few quick tips. This is a rare opportunity to look behind the curtain at an approach that has shaped the sound of some of the greatest jazz musicians of our time. In this masterclass, Gary Keller presents a systematic and tangible way of creating and practicing modal sounds and then developing real-world vocabulary that's specific to those sounds. He doesn't just talk theory, he shows you exactly how to apply it. Gary breaks it down using the jazz standard invitation, shows us examples of how Coltrane used these modes and more. This approach has literally changed the game for generations of jazz musicians. It's the kind of information that many players only get if they know where to look or if they're lucky enough to study with the right people. Today, you're getting direct access. It's a true honor to host Gary Keller here on the Next Level Sax channel. He's not only a master saxophonist, but also a world-class improviser, composer, and educator, and he's pulling back the curtain to share concepts that most players only ever hear about secondhand. Now, before we dive in, I want to make sure you know about a few resources that will help you to get the absolute most out of this masterclass and your playing. First up, the Jazz Standards Etude Workbook. This is over 70 pages of material with complete etudes on standards such as All the Things You Are, Stella by Starlight, Giant Steps, and more, plus practice exercises and breakdowns designed to line up with these free digital lessons right here on the YouTube channel. Right now, you can grab the entire book for just $1 when you use the discount code NEXTLEVEL. Next, the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint, Mastering Tone, Articulation, and Time Feel. This is my flagship course. It includes 25 HD video lessons, a 179-page companion workbook, key insights, exercises, and everything you need to transform your tone, articulation, and time feel into tools you can actually use in real playing. And finally, the Next Level Sax community. This is where everything comes together. Members get weekly vocabulary PDFs, monthly etudes, access to participate in live stream masterclasses like this one you're about to see, group lessons, and more. It's where we connect, share, and really dig in together. And here's one more thing. All of the handouts used in this masterclass are available to download for free through the link below. Gary even included several bonus handouts for additional study. Plus, you'll find the link to his book, The Jazz Chord Scale Handbook, a systematized guide to virtually all of the scales and chord relationships used in jazz improvisation and composition. You'll also see the links to educational materials by Ron Miller, Gary's main influence and direct source for much of this approach to modes and modern harmony. So get your horn, pour your favorite beverage, and get ready to have your mind blown by the one and only Gary Keller.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Congratulations on your website. It's really happening. I think you got a really wonderful thing going here.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for inviting me. So the topic today was, or is, essentially, we were talking about modal harmony, but I think and also the melodic minor scale. I think before we can get deeply into melodic minor, we have to talk about what modes are and what's really going on with modes. You know, it's not just somebody, played from one note to another on the piano and decided to give it a funny name. If you think of the chromatic scale or the piano, I'm going to put my keyboard cam on here for a second, as like 12 notes in either direction. Just imagine all the keys were the same. So if you look at the keyboard, just imagine like all these notes were white notes, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in both directions. And you realize that could be all sorts of symmetry and designs and all sorts of crazy things that you could put together, and like a kaleidoscope of patterns and colors. So there's a unique interval in Western harmony that divides the octave in half. Here's our octave. And if we go in half, we get that interval called a tritone. That's divides the octave in half. It's you probably all of West Side Story is written on tritones. You know that melody, Maria. So where's the tritone in a major scale? I'm going to move fast, and if you have some questions, we'll have some time later. So if we look at a C major scale, we see the tritone is between 4 and 7, okay? So this tritone gives us, just to cut to the chase, the actual color tones of every mode. So if you have a fourth and a major 7, that's always going to be Ionian. And these tones are never going to alter. Anything that has a fourth and a major 7 is always going to be in Ionian mode. A flat 3 and a 6, Dorian, flat 2 and 5, Phrygian, a sharp 4, anything with a sharp 4 is Lydian, anything with a flat 7 and a 3 is Mixolydian, anything with a flat 6 and a 9 is Aeolian, and anything with a flat 5 is Locrian. Now I'm going to make that voicing a little richer by adding another note. We can just keep adding force, either direction actually. And here we go again. I'm going to add another fourth. And I have this major 7 sharp 4 shape. There's my Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian again. Okay? So, if you know the interval of the bass note, you can very quickly voice any mode. So Ionian is from the fourth. So just pick a note, F sharp, fine. Let's do this, and you got to know where your tritone in a fourth or your major 7 grips are, major 7 flat 5 grips. If you want to do any Dorian, it's from the flat 3. Bingo. If you want to do an Aeolian, it's from the flat 6. I just did C Aeolian. Let's do another one for more fun. You know, that's the sad mode.
So you'll notice in the right hand, it's basically playing 1, 3, sharp 4, 7. If you want to think of it as related to the notes in the right hand, as if the bottom note is the root of the chord. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if the right hand, if we think of C, let's say that's where your thumb is in the right hand, then it's going to be C, E, F sharp, B, right? So 1, 3, sharp 4, 7, and then you change the notes in the bass in the left hand to get the different modal sounds that you're looking for. And we call that a grip in the right hand. It's a Lydian grip. 1, 3, sharp 4, 7.
Well, so this is, we call this a Lydian grip because by itself it's Lydian. So this is everywhere in music, this shape. And if you can learn it on the piano quickly, you can make a lot of great sounds really fast. Nowhere to put it over a bass note, and you have any of the diatonic modes just like that. And you'll start to hear this Lydian grip as part of a major scale. When I hear this, I hear ending there. When I hear this, you start to hear where that fits into the scale that it comes from, okay? Actually, it's 5 of the 7 it's 4 of the 7 notes, so you're going to hear that as part of the major land, of the 7 modes of major. Okay, now by the way, this is from a harmony book that I have that has been around for a long time, but it was the last couple years completely rewritten and updated. It's called the Jazz Chord Scale Handbook. It's in use in a lot of universities around the world. You can get it at my website. It's a great book. A lot of people have found it extraordinarily useful over the years. The Jazz Chord Scale Handbook. So this is right from the book. It gives you the primary color tones of the modes and explains up here how it works, okay? And why. So we have that. So let's see some of this stuff in action. Okay, so this melody right here you'll recognize, A minor 7. And there it it is. It's the Lydian grip from the flat 3, and the chord is Dorian or minor. Joe Henderson, Kenny Dorham, I believe, used it to write this. Oh, no, yeah, Kenny Dorham. And of course, it goes up a minor 3rd. So there it is. Okay, it's right in a composition, and it's actually in way more than 1 or 2. It's in dozens and dozens and dozens. Here's another one. You've heard this, C minor. Here's my Dorian sound, and look at this melody. There it is. Okay, so very useful in composition. All right. It's also, we'll take a look at the tune Inner Urge too. So how would you play on a mode? Well, I wrote out what John Coltrane plays on the tune Crescent, okay? And this is the introduction. This is very free. That's why it doesn't have any bar lines. And the chord is A Phrygian. An A Phrygian can also be expressed as an A7 sus flat 9. Here's the thing about chords and modes. Basically, you need to know the chord that goes with every mode, and then you need to know how to voice it. So if somebody says Phrygian, then okay, I know how to voice that chord on the piano, and that helps me learn the sound of it. But I know also how I could call it a 7th chord, because we don't always see just somebody writing a mode. And then that voicing might involve an upper structure over a bass note, which is what we just talked about. So that A Phrygian, I know that if I want to get that sound, I'm going to play the B flat Lydian grip over the A. So I'm going to just play a little of that, and then let's see why that sounds so Phrygian when Coltrane plays it. This Phrygian. E Phrygian. So, why does that sound so Phrygian even by itself? If I was teaching a class, I'd be able to ask a question, but I can make you all raise your hands. But what's the tritone we're looking for Phrygian? We're looking for that tritone between flat 2 and 5, okay? And wow, there it is. That tritone shows up right away. Also, he starts his thing right on that top of that Lydian upper structure. I think Coltrane played a lot of chords on the piano, and he knew how to voice them, and he really loved this major 7 shape. And it shows up in all his tunes, and it shows up as in his improvisations. So there's our tritone. And notice how often that B flat and the E are on the beat. And that E kind of transforms into the other mode. It goes up a 5th, you'll notice. Okay, go from this Phrygian this Phrygian. Okay, so you're getting the idea. And if we look in here, we're going to expect to see a lot of Fs and Bs, and there they are. Look at that, all on the beat. Fs and Bs.
Yeah, Gary, you want to play the whole thing one more time for us?
Absolutely. Can you hear the piano ringing in the background?
Yeah.
Does it work? New chords. And there's some interesting shapes, from the major scale in there. You see a dominant seventh chord in there, which is from the fifth of the major scale. There's a whole bunch of shapes in the major scale besides that Lydian grip that can be used, when you play modally. So the question is how you hear it, and of course, all of this stuff and all of this intellectual and crazy harmony stuff is just a way to coach our ears into hearing sounds, and so we can respond to sounds. It's all about responding and understanding sounds, not about your brain working a mile a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though. Like the first version of that Phrygian over the A Phrygian, it's kind of a different grip than when it comes to the E7 Phrygian, right? In a sense, like certain notes are stressed more. They're like different notes.
It's hard to hear, without the bass note and the drone. But they do sound a little different.
Right. Yeah, they sound noticeably different to me.
Yeah. But you'll see, E Phrygian is from C major, of course, and look, all those notes, every single one of them is from C major, but it sure doesn't sound like a C major scale, does it? You see how it works, and you see how that tritone still keeps showing up. There's the FB, there's the FB, see everything on the beat. So, he knows how to get that sound. He really liked that sound. And of course, the cymbals are suspended cymbals going, and McCoy is going at it. Another tune, Inner Urge, okay, you've probably heard that tune. Very famous modal tune by Joe Henderson. You should explain what we mean a little more specifically about modal harmony too. But the first chord of Inner Urge, all right, we're going to do this in concert. It's a half diminished chord. Okay, so we know that Lydian shape is from the flat 5. That's my little rule that we just established earlier. All right, and there's his shape. And then if we go down to the F major 7 flat 5, we got this sound. Okay, and he took that same tritone. He changed the bass note. I'm sorry, not the same tritone, excuse me. He instead of this tritone, all right, he moved it down to this tritone. Changed the bass note, added this note below. We're gonna, if we did more of this, we'd learn that that's the Ionian grip. All right, but anyway, he just a little shift. Okay, but it's all about that tritone, right? The F and the B. This tritone to this tritone. And then we work it way down. And there it is. And that's just a little substitute chord. All right. And one more before we go to the bridge, which we won't do. D flat Lydian. So once again, there's the shape. right, sorry. There it is. So just by manipulating that tritone shape, he goes through half diminished chord and then a major 7 flat 5 and then down in whole steps. And you know, that's composition. And we'll share all these handouts, I think, at the end, just so you can grab them out of the chat. If you want to even just put them all in the chat, you can, Jeff, and then people can have them.
Yeah, I'm going to provide links for everybody.
Great. Okay. So that gives us a little taste of major modes, all right? And we wanted to get into, let me get my
and
bass
Gary,
back up here
what
for
about,
a second. Yes.
Would it be possible to pick each one of those chords if you've got the half diminished, the major sharp 4s, and just improvise a little bit, utilizing those shapes?
I was going to do that towards the end.
Okay, great.
On a couple tunes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was going to do it on Invitation, which is an amazing, awesome tune to do it on. So what about melodic minor? Have we lost anybody? Yes. So what's going on with melodic minor? Well, it's relative to the major scale, but it's not relative in the way that people might think. You know, there's a reason that we have a thing called a relative minor. If we look at C major and we look at that tritone in a fourth, it's like, interesting, okay? Well, at the sixth mode, that Aeolian mode, that shares the same, obviously, because it's from the same key. And if we do that, then we end up with our harmonic minor scale. We just have to sharp the 7.
Do you want to show the keyboard, Gary?
Oh, sorry, thank you. Keep
That's
up with
all
me.
right.
So there's our C with the Lydian grip playing Ionian. There's the Aeolian, okay? And if we raise the 7th to give it a leading tone, we get that guy. We get this too, but we get this. So the difference, they both share our tritone and our fourth. And the thing that changes all the modes from major to harmonic minor is this note, right? And then we have all these modes. Etc. Okay, we won't go through naming those at the moment, but let's apply that same principle to the melodic minor, and I do this and it really confuses people for a second, if you're not confused already. If we're looking at the key of C major, there's my Lydian, my tritone in a fourth. It's the, actually let's look at, let's do that. Where is that where is that tritone in a fourth in a melodic minor scale? Well, it's not C melodic minor. That would be the parallel melodic minor. Nope. That exists somewhere in a melodic minor scale. And most people have to think about it for quite a while, because this is why. If we start on D, all right, minor. Okay, we make that melodic minor. We sharp the 1 of the major scale, and that keeps our tritone in a fourth and puts us into the relative melodic minor. And that's the 7th mode. Some people might want to call it the first mode. 7th mode, first, and then we go through our melodic minor chords. So we're going to add that note. And there's our melodic minor modes. And the note that makes all the major modes into melodic minor is that sharp 1 of the major scale, just like that made all the notes into harmonic minor. So our first mode is Dorian with a natural 7. Second mode is Phrygian with a natural 6th. Lydian with a sharp 5. Mixolydian with a sharp 4. Aeolian with a natural 3rd. And Locrian with a flatted 4th, all right? And Ionian, sorry, Locrian with a natural 2. And Ionian, it's a major scale with a sharp root, but we also call that the altered dominant scale because it gives us all the alterations of the dominant chord. So that sound is like a C7 with all the alterations, and that's the famous 7th mode of melodic minor. And it resolves, right? Okay, so there's our melodic minor modes, bingo. And we can play any melodic minor mode by putting this tritone in the 4th in the same place we would put it for a major mode. If we want to play Phrygian, there it is. If we want the melodic minor Phrygian, we add the altered tone. We want the Mixolydian mode, there it is. If we want the melodic minor Mixolydian, there it is. Okay, so there's all your melodic minor modes, bingo. And they all have that same alteration. Now they all sound kind of the same because we're playing them all from the same key, but if you played all your modes, for instance, with the same root, then you realize how different they sound. For instance, there's C Ionian, there's C Dorian, here's C Dorian natural 7, or yes, right, the melodic minor version. Here's C Phrygian, here's C Phrygian from melodic minor, that really pretty natural 6th. Let's do one more. Here's C Aeolian. Here's the C Aeolian from melodic minor, all right? All you have to do is augment that grip. And that sound of augmented, that's really ubiquitous to melodic minor. That's the sound of melodic minor. Okay, so where do we go from there?
Gary, would you
Yes.
say then that if you were to analyze just the right hand of the piano, that is what we might call the Lydian Aug grip? Is that?
Yes, exactly. So this is the Lydian grip. If you give it a short name, right? Give it a cute name so we remember. Of course, by itself, it's Lydian. We sharp the 5, so you could call it the Lydian sharp 5 grip or the Lydian Aug grip. We could do that. We could also do that. And then we have same thing. We put our tritone in a 4th from the same note, or a tritone in a 4th, or a tritone in a 4th major 7, flat 5, and we just raise that guy, and we're in melodic minor land.
And then also when you had, I think you were saying,
Yes.
you had C in the bass, and then you had something off of A flat, and I think you said A.
So that you're all, right? Well, we're only doing these Lydian shapes, so that's Aeolian because it's from the flat 6. And if we melodify it, I like to use that term melodify it, it becomes Aeolian natural 3, all right? But it's that melodic minor sound. And it's interesting because in modal harmony, modal harmony is harmony that basically is not dependent on the resolution of the tritone and 5/1. That stuff. It's the tension and release in modal harmony comes from the relative tension of the individual chords. And by the way, lest I forget, the person that I was introduced all this to me and I learned so much is the one and only Ron Miller. Okay, and if you don't know about Ron, you really have to go there. We're going to share some links, and you can go to his websites. He's got a couple of different places. He's got videos on how he composed certain tunes. He's got all sorts of recordings of his tunes. I made a record I'm on 2 records of his music, and a lot of famous people have played his music. And Ronnie really wrote the book on jazz composition, and he's influenced generations of students from the University of Miami. He retired about 10 years ago, but he's, of course, alive and well. And it all comes from Ronnie, and what can I say? And also, a lot of it was organized and helped me understand by Whit Seidner, the former chairman of the department and another close friend. So, and then a few other people from other places, but those are my main influences. You notice if you're not quick with intervals, now's the time to get quick with intervals, because that's basically how you understand harmony.
Yeah, and I know Ron Miller's got a couple of, I think he's got 2 volumes or 3 volumes of books.
He's got a piano book, but he's also got an incredible 2-volume jazz composition book, and it was one of the first ones, and it's really an amazing book.
And Mark's got a question of how do we practice all of these different modes on the saxophone?
That is a great question.
Right?
Yes. Okay. So you practice the sound of the mode, and then you practice the structures within the mode, and hopefully, your sense of melody will get you into some pretty things. There we go, the major modes and the relative minor mode. And I think this is from my book. It's a 130-page book. There's a lot of stuff in there. The Jazz Chord Scale Handbook. I just sold my 300th copy, and it's only available in hard copy book form. It's a nice little book. You can't download it. Well, hopefully you can't download it. But most people want to have it on their bookshelf. It's a great resource. So there we go. There's, the Lydian grip, and like you said, the Lydian Aug grip, and there's the major modes and the relative melodic minor modes for each. Okay. So these would be the modes of C major. These would be the modes of D melodic minor. C major with a sharp root. If you start fooling around with that on the piano, you'll see it makes perfect sense. Sounds pretty crazy right now. Okay, so how do you practice them? Let me get my... so let's take a melodic minor scale. The simple one, I'll back up here so I don't bust my saxophone into the piano. So let's just take a D melodic minor, all right? So it's C major with a C sharp. That's the major. Here's the relative melodic minor. So first of all, you should know all your scales in intervals, all right? So just thirds. Alternating. And even when you start playing that, if you go to the piano, okay, so and this is where it's so important to have a little keyboard help. So I'm playing the D melodic minor modes, right? So C on the piano. So there's the Dorian natural 7 mode. And I can hear the sound just of that third pattern, up 1/3, down the other. Turn it around at the end, to get bored with the pattern, make a little melody out of it. So here's the Phrygian sound of that in melodic minor. You've heard enough of the thirds. So there's triads. Up and down. Anything you would do with a major scale, okay? Sevenths. Bingo. You have to know the scale, of course, and then start examining like what I call the different layers inside these sounds. So here's and you can hear it by placing the grip over any bass note, right? And you can make that D melodic minor into any of the modes of D melodic minor. want it to be an altered dominant, right? So it's going to be, let's see. And then, you start to orient a little towards the voicing, okay? But the shapes that are in there, in melodic minor, okay? There's the minor major 7 shape. That makes a pretty melody. There's the augmented major 7. There's the half diminished. And, I just start turning them into some melodies, okay? And there's a pair of triads in there. So let's pick another mode from C melodic minor. Let's make it half diminished, or Locrian natural 2. What was I talking about? Oh, the triads. Oh, sorry. That works too, though. You can alternate. There's a zillion and one patterns, okay?
Now those triads, Gary, those are
yes.
built off of the sharp 11 and the flat 13, right?
Well, on an altered dominant, but within melodic minor, they're from the 4th and the 5th.
4th and the 5th of the melodic minor, okay.
Mm-hmm. So D melodic minor is G and A.
Hey there, sorry to jump in real quick while you're watching, but if you've been digging this video so far, I've got something I think you'll really want to check out. Let me ask you this. You've studied the theory, you've learned the licks, you've played the heads, and even transcribed the solos, but your own playing still isn't locking in like the greats. Why not? Most players think they need more vocabulary or fancier substitutions to sound better, but in reality, the missing piece, the thing that actually makes someone sound like a jazz player, isn't more notes. It's tone, articulation, and time feel, and that's exactly what this course is built around. Welcome to the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint, mastering tone, articulation, and time feel. This is my complete step-by-step course to help you build your sound, style, and swing feel your playing has been missing. This isn't just a random collection of lessons, it's the result of decades of study, performance, and teaching, all distilled into a structured system that has helped saxophonists finally sound the way they know they're capable of. Inside, you'll get access to over 25 in-depth video lessons, no fluff, just the exact methods I use with students and pros. Full demonstration videos so you can hear and see exactly how each concept works. Downloadable PDFs for every exercise, phrase, and concept. No guesswork. A complete course workbook that includes all exercises in one place, plus a key insights section for every lesson so you can absorb the most important takeaways and track your progress clearly. You'll learn how to develop a resonant, focused tone through overtone and tuning exercises, and how to build a swing and time feel through articulation, breath accents, pivot patterns, and blues phrasing. This course is designed to meet you where you are, and it's totally self-paced. You can move freely between lessons and sections at any time, but I've also organized everything in a clear progression to help you get the most out of the material. Plus, you'll be able to download a full book of 200 jazz phrases over the most important chord progression in jazz, the 2-5-1. This is a lifetime study of vocabulary with bebop phrasing, altered dominant ideas, and even a built-in practice tracker to help you stay on course. You'll also get bonus lessons like my 5-step improvisation method, a major chord and scale workout, blues phrasing and how to keep things rhythmically interesting, a full melodic breakdown of blue bossa, bebop enclosures, approach notes, and sidestepping sequences. Whether you're an adult learner getting back into playing the horn, a serious high school player preparing for auditions, or a professional looking to refine your core sound, this course gives you the foundation to play musically, confidently, and authentically. So if you're tired of guessing, if you're tired of sounding almost there, click the link and join me inside the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint. Let's make your playing feel as good as it sounds in your head. I'll see you inside the course.
That's just kind of, then you start studying solos and you just kind of use your sense of melody and of course rhythm You know, the things that always sound good are when you reach for things. So maybe we take a, I don't know, I like the sound of the Phrygian natural six a lot. Let's put it down here. That's a melody of one of Ronnie's tunes. So you just sing that, you know, play that on the piano and just see what you come up with. And if you know a lot of melodies, then you're going to improvise good melodies. You know, that same kind of sound could be an altered dominant chord. And then you could resolve it. 5-1.
You want to do that with the overhead piano cam there, Gary?
You
You want to show
see
us
the
the
piano?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, now you want to look at the piano, right? Yeah. Good. That's a good sign. Everybody wants to see the piano. You know, you study tunes, that's where it all comes from. You study tunes and you listen to what people do. Just like I took that little piece of what Coltrane played on Phrygian. And if you might want to take that and put that same line over other modes and see how it works, you know, other modes from the same key.
You know, picking out the shapes that define the mode and then moving the bass note, utilizing those shapes, that kind of thing to kind of get the sounds going.
Well, exactly. You know, the thing is, the sound of D melodic minor is really 7 different sounds. But it's all the same scale, just like the sound of, you know, the modes of C major is 7 different sounds, but it's all the same scale. So it just kind of depends on how you tilt it. And it depends back, we go back to where we started, you know, where you place that tritone, you know, where you play the structures that are inside of the mode. And, you know, just for instance, the D melodic minor, if you just think, you know, it's got D minor major 7. Got a dominant chord in there too. And a half diminished. That sound of half diminished, which is inside, of course, the melodic minor scale, that's a really pretty sound. You also can just practice, you know, playing a Lydian grip on the piano and just come down the scale that you hear. Almost everybody will play down a Locrian scale. Sorry. And then melodify it. And then there, okay, you see what I'm getting at, right? So that's great. You know, the more you know about it, the more your ears respond to it, the less you think about it. And then, you know, you start thinking about it and it actually slows you down. You know, but in the beginning, you got to think about it a lot and you got to look at it and see it and play it. And you're going to hear it everywhere. You're going to hear it all over the place.
Yeah, I think having that, the right hand, if you think about that right hand of that piano, that shape of 1, 3, sharp 4, 7, that's what we would call the Lydian grip. So
we call it a grip, yeah, because you know, it's a hand shape. So
in that
That's where
shape,
that
you just
term
move that
grip comes
around.
from. Yep, you move it around, you put it in the right place over the bass note, and if you want to make it melodic minor, you raise the fifth of that grip. And then you start studying some tunes.
I know in the
Oh,
chat,
all right.
Mark asked
Yes, Mark. What?
other tunes that you would recommend that are using the modes of melodic minor.
There's all modern jazz tunes, so many, just because it's a mode of melodic minor doesn't mean it's necessarily a modal tune. You're certainly going to hear that altered dominant mode in a lot of, 2-5-1 tunes. Almost any tune, be honest with you. I mean, any tune with a 2 chord or a 5 chord.
Yeah, what if we just took a 2-5-1 in C, and on that 5 chord, how would you employ?
Okay, well, the shortcut for what I was going to do let's go through the tune Invitation.
Great.
Because that captures all whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Okay. So here's the chords for Invitation. All right, and these are concert. So C minor 6 or C minor 7. All right, C Dorian. You know the tune. That's the grip right there in the melody. So spend a little time with that sound. Whatever, have some fun with it. This goes into diminished land a little bit. I don't think we're going to study that today. Sorry about the sub keys. This goes into diminished land too. And then the whole thing happens a minor third higher. But you see how important it is that I can play the chord on the piano? Let's see. Whatever. And then we have a set of 2 5s in the bridge, okay? And it isn't a dominant 7 altered or flat 9 13, and you have the shape on the piano. I don't know, you're looking at the piano, right? We go from a major 7 to a half diminished, and that's what's implied in the tune. So we got this sound, and here it is with the roots. And to minor, which is actually a major chord on the top. So then you can start to see how that's going to work, all right? So it's just Dorian mode or just, your standard 2 chord stuff. You can play bebop type licks or you can just play more modally. Whatever, go on forever with that. And then...
And we're in measure 17 here. We just played 17.
Yes, thank you. And then we're going to go to concert G melodic minor for that altered scale, which is like taking this sound and moving it up, taking that minor sound and just moving it up a tritone. Or you can think melodic minor a half step above the root. There's a lot of ways to think about it. I don't think about it much anymore. I just kind of play it. So let me put those together if I can. So you kind of need to hear the accompaniment, but. Sing a little bit. Again. Oh, see where. So, you know, then it moves down, right? So where are we going to go? To the next set of 2/5s, right? I'm going to play them two-handed here. Do 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 do. And then the same thing a step lower. There's the melody. If you're hearing it. Sometimes, you know, we were playing these altered dominants, if you are above the chord with the tensions, that you can't appreciate the sound unless you hear the roots of the chords at the same time. But there it is. So, you know, maybe I'll just kind of go through it. So I'm gonna play through the tune once. All right.
Great.
So right from the beginning, see if you can follow, kind of freely. That was more lines, but I could play, you know, the scale of each chord. I might do that to practice. I like to play scales down too. Or, oh, you know, you may want to see me playing. Sorry.
Well, that was great. I was following along and pointing out where you were in the tune.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Except I couldn't see that bottom line.
Whoops.
That's okay.
I can do that.
There we go.
You know, I was playing a little more in time than I thought. Actually, I was gonna. So let's see.
Yeah, you want to play the scales?
So here's the scales. You know what? I'm going to play down the scales because I think that's way more useful. You know, we get so used to playing so up a scale from the root, and there's not a whole lot you can do with that. You know, it's like a very baseline thing. But if you can play down the scales, you know, from the sound of the grips, you're going to get more further. So I'll just do that from the grip. And we're going to go here. There we go. And then you're going to go here. dee da da. I can sing it. Da dee da da do dee da da dee da. See that? Sing a diminished scale. Next guy. Ba da 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 da. Down to diminished again. I didn't bother to play it on the piano. All right, so here's our sounds of the 2/5. Here's your 2 chord. From that note. From here maybe. From here. See how we're going like that? So that's another great way to practice, or just improvise on them a little bit. Let's see. Let's do the last one. Let's see. We're here. Let's see. Oh, sorry. If you're not sure how it goes yet, play it for yourself. Where was I here? Play down on the piano. See if you can just play that quick by ear on the piano, on the horn. There we go. Then we got this guy. And we got this guy. And we got this guy. Concert key. So, this is to get you familiarized with the shapes.
Now, when you're playing descending like that,
and see what people play. Yes.
Are you starting on the 7th of?
I'm starting on whatever note was on the top of my voicing.
I see. Okay.
The idea of hearing that note on top of the voicing and playing down a scale, as opposed to, this is a D minor chord, and then D and
Right.
You can't get too far with that, because since bebop and even before that, but harmony has been about those upper notes of the chords, and they're going to be in the tops of the piano voicings, and that's what you're going to hear, So you have to rhythmicize it, of course, and there's many other aspects to improvising than just understanding the chords and the scales. How to make something melodic and how to respond to what's going on in the rhythm section and how to make something rhythmically interesting. But, you get to that point. Here's the bridge again. The idea?
Yeah.
You find shapes, that you like. You find melodies within the scales that you like. You have to develop your sense of melody.
Right, and I think that's one of the key elements of knowing these different shapes is that they are basically, built-in melodies that you can then explore that gets you out of the stepwise motion of the scale that we're so used to, and just knowing what shapes fit
Yes,
over
all
those
those pretty sounds that
chords.
are inside the scale, and there's a lot of sounds in there. You can go on for a long time.
Would you say that it's um, a good idea, maybe if, let's say, we're starting out, if you identify maybe one chord quality, maybe it's the
Hmm.
dominant sharp 11 chord, and say, okay, what is that scale, and what is the shapes within that, and then just explore maybe that chord quality for a while, different.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And you know what? There's some really good tools for that. Well, first of all, for years I've been making my own play-alongs. Just make some kind of thing on Sibelius. That you can plug in the. You don't have to play piano in time. You can just plug in the grips, and the pretty voicings and and get used to the correct scales and stuff like that. Because some of that I real B stuff is pretty lame. Of course, playing with other people and getting ideas from them. Uh, yeah, the playing down is big, and play down the scale of every chord from the melody note of the tune.
Mm.
Can you sing it? Um, no, that one's so good. You get what I get, right? I was right. I can't play it at the piano though. Almost. That's a diminished scale. That's another lesson. Um, so yeah, so you get it in your ear from all around, as opposed to, oh, it's I don't. You're not going to get far with that. That's the scale, but that's like step one out of 100. So, and then what's sometimes even less helpful is but that's even hard to do. Or you have to be careful, if you're putting like the lower notes on the top, in the higher parts of the horn, listen to like the hierarchy of sound for some of this. That's the third of the chord. Everybody tells you to play the third, right? But if you put it up there against this kind of voicing, it almost sounds like a wrong note, doesn't it? So if somebody says, well, play the thirds of the chord, and you hear this, and you're going, you're way off base, even though those are the right notes. I mean, those are arguably not the right notes, but they're the notes in the scale, right? So if you want to use the third, put it where it belongs. But maybe don't hang out on it, So things like that all comes from knowing some good piano voicings for chords. Uh,
Yeah,
we could play, so,
I was gonna say
yeah, go
that,
ahead.
yeah, one of the huge takeaways for me when we were going through this stuff,
Hmm.
was a practical and tangible way to find melodic shapes, that fit these more exotic sounds. And
Hmm.
it was like this kind of like secret revealed to me, that that's the kind of really cool stuff that I hear my favorite players playing. Because yeah,
Hmm.
we learned the scale and we're like, okay, well, that's the altered scale. Okay, cool. But why does it not sound as cool when I play the altered scale as when some of my favorite players are using the same notes, really? But it's
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
shapes, that define the sound, or maybe they don't if it's a certain type of triadic type thing, in the same way as the chord tones. But it's those shapes that
Yeah.
when you study it this way, that it just really opens up so much.
Yes, it is. It's those shapes. You're exactly right. And I remember going through that too, knowing all the scales and just wondering why, you know, it was a while back, but wondering why I couldn't just make it sound hip. And it's number one, I didn't really hear it well, you know. I couldn't sing what I was playing. So the sounds weren't as clear in my head. I was playing with my brain, Now it's like if I'm thinking about it, like sometimes even when I'm teaching, I'm trying to explain it and think about it. It's like, wow, that's really slowing me down. It's that's another whole thing, than when you're just running with it, because it should be coming from your ears, But that's not to say you don't know what it is. This major seventh shape, this whole idea of upper structures, a chord built from a note other than the root. There's so many great tunes that show those upper structures. So this, we had a great group called the Miami Saxophone Quartet. We made 5 wonderful CDs. This particular tune we actually recorded the saxophone parts, and then later on, we had some friends that had the rhythm section, and so it was kind of pieced together. It was definitely a little digital. But this is Ronnie Miller's tune, Seventh Sign. Oh. Let's jump ahead here.
you changed your mic. We can.
Yeah, I had to because my other mic disappeared.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yes, we did hear it, and it was awesome. I mean, um, we could hear the shapes that
Hmm.
you were exploring. Basically what we had talked about as far as note choices and the modes, and just putting it all
Hmm.
together there in the context.
Good. Well, I mean, they become intuitive. I don't know why my fancy mic here just disappeared off the list. But whatever. She can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So that's an example of a tune that's basically modal harmony. It's not two five ones. It's just the sound of one mode moving to another. And I mean, Ronnie wrote hundreds of tunes, so I strongly suggest you. There's two records. I made a record a ways back of his music with Kenny Werner and Billy Hart and Drew Grass. Is called Blues for an Old New Age. That's a nice record. Did very well at the time it came out. And then just a few years ago, we made another one called a tribute to Ron Miller, and we did it during the pandemic, and everybody mailed in their parts from all around the country, former students. It came out really, really well. It was produced by a guy in LA named John. John. No, 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 no. Flew out of my head his last name. But anyway, that's called The Regions, a tribute to Ron Miller. John Gilliton. Jon. So that's a great introduction, to Ron's music. But Joe Labano has recorded some of his tunes. Hal Galper's a big favorite. So, or he's a big favorite of Hal's. Are there any questions? I mean, we just kind of dabbled in it. It's pretty hard to go too deep in this amount of time, but is anybody like just totally confused? If you get my book and work your way through it, I think you'll find that it illuminates a lot.
You ship your book internationally.
I do. Yes, I do, except that the postage is outrageous. So if you buy it if you do the automatic thing on PayPal, I'm going to have to get back to you and tell you the real cost because it's about $30 to send it to Europe. It's more than the price of the book. But people pay it. They do.
Yeah, it's just such a great resource to have everything laid out, visually.
It's it's a bit of an encyclopedia or it's a handbook. It's not like here's what you play. It's like here's what's going on. Here's how you voice the chords. Here's a whole bunch of tunes that they come from. Here's some examples of some melodies. All that kind of stuff. It's been very popular.
I guess for me, the biggest thing that I would always wanted to know is, okay, where do I start with the melodic minor modes once I learn the scale, and I can see, this starting on the second note of the melodic minor scale gives me this chord and this sound. It's like, okay, awesome. And I think getting in there with those shapes on the piano seems to be the next step, right?
Well, piano's always been huge to me, and I'm glad I grew up in a household with a piano, because from the time I was just getting interested in music, I was sitting around fiddling with chords, and seeing what it was all about. So there are, great musicians who don't go near the piano. Most of them have pretty amazing ears, and they just hear what pianists play, and they play along with it. But if you really want to, get your hands on it, so to speak, but if you need to study it, you need to hear it while you're practicing it, if you play good voicings and you learn some piano with good voicings, you don't have to perform on the piano. You just have to be able to voice some chords and play through some progressions. And you'll play better lines, than you will if you're just looking at a chord, on a piece of paper and trying to play up an arpeggio or something. That playing down is huge. Picking any note of the scale or the melody note and finding your way down, because when you play up, that's how we learn all our scales. You play up from the root, it's really automatic. But if you play down and you just start on the melody note, you're gonna quit thinking about it really quickly, because it's too big a pain in the butt, and you're just gonna start hearing it, and just gonna, play down that scale that you hear that goes with the chord. Even if you were to sing it, all my students, if I play this major 7 flat 5 chord, they'll sing down a Locrian mode, Bo-do-dee-dee-da-da-dee-da. Whoop, I played the melodic minor one. I guess that was in my ear from before. No, that was right. What did I just play down? Anyways, that was the right scale. They'll sing down the major scale. Yeah, they'll sing down I guess this is like singing down the Phrygian, I guess. Okay, but whatever. They're singing down the correct scale. But then you can take that sound, there it is, Ionian. Here it is, Phrygian. Here it is, Aeolian. Here it is, Lydian. Here it is, Dorian. See, it's all the same sound. So if you hear the sound of that scale and you recognize the scale, you're good for 7 different chords, And sometimes you don't even have to know the root. I mean, you certainly should know the root and play off bass notes, but if you hear the sound of the scale, and that's another thing about modal harmony, is that, the bass can change. The bass is very less locked into those, 5th type root movements. Here's a little sound by Coltrane. You can see what he was doing on the piano. And then check that out. And then here's our Ionian. Now it sounds good, doesn't it?
You want to flip the piano came on?
You want to see? I don't know if the piano would move. Yeah, it starts with a B flat over A flat. That would imply Lydian. They don't improvise on the tune, so, so that triad, that implies Lydian. Where were we here? That implies diminished. That's the sound. That's a certain thing, whatever. That implies 5/7, flat 9. There's our diminished again. And then this is great. Instead of this 2/5 and A flat, well, he can't quite play the same melody, but that's a 2/5, but he does a melodic minor modal substitute. Just really takes it into 4 minor land instead of 5/7, but then this little interlude. McCoy Tyner does a much better job of it than me. But you hear it. And then at the end, there's a Phrygian interlude. And then when you're done, it's back to the top. But you could just, I could just see Coltrane sitting at the piano doing exactly what I'm doing, you know. I like that sound. You know, this is diminished moving to major. That's a thing, you know, in functional harmony. 5/7 sus. 5/7 flat 9. Just a diminished triad on the top. 1, the 7, and that guy. And my computer's about to run out of power. You know what? Part of this is, it's just I've even got it plugged in, and it's just taking so much juice from all this stuff.
Right. Well, this has been incredible, Gary. I mean, it is a, lofty subject matter, and tough to.
Well, it's a whole couple of semesters of college. we move, pretty slow. But maybe that just got people's interest a little bit. Strongly recommend my book if I can put that plug in myself.
And just hearing some of the possibilities, is huge. I know that has really inspired me, is when I hear, even though some of those sounds that you just played, it's like, oh, wow, that would be something I would love to use in a tune, or I'd like to, learn a little bit more about what I can play over that. And knowing that it's coming from this type of study is really huge.
And actually, just the way you worded that is something that I think about too when I teach. We look at chords and we say, and this is really the study of theory. It's like we look at something and we say, well, what do I play over that chord, right? And my answer to that is, you play that. Do you know what that is? So where does that chord come from? Because my little saying at school is, Moses came down from the mountain with a tablet of scales, not a tablet of chords. And all those chords come from scales. And if you know your chords within your scales, then you see that chord and it's like, and it's not like, I mean, I know we all think like that. What do I play over that? But that kind of hints at, you have to tell me what to play over that, as opposed to I know what that is, I know exactly what's going on with that chord. I know the scale. I know where it's from. So I catch my students on that a little bit too. But I say it too. What do I play over that? But for me, it's like, well, take that thing apart. Figure out where that comes from.
Wow, what a session. Huge thanks to Gary Keller for not only sharing his knowledge, but breaking it down in such a clear, practical way. I hope you caught the depth of what's here, because this is the stuff that separates players who just know about theory from the ones who can actually use it in their playing. If you haven't already, make sure to grab the free handouts from the link below. They'll help you review and practice everything Gary covered today. And don't forget to check out his book, The Jazz Chord Scale Handbook, along with Ron Miller's materials that influence so much of this system. And remember, this is just the beginning. If you're ready to keep building your skills, you can grab the Jazz Standards Etude Workbook for only $1 with code NEXTLEVEL. Or if you want the full roadmap, the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint course is waiting for you with 25 HD video lessons and a massive 179-page workbook to guide you step by step. Better yet, join us in the Next Level Sax community, where you'll get access to live masterclasses like this one, weekly PDFs, monthly etudes, group lessons, and the support of a community community of saxophonists all working to take their playing to the next level. Thanks again for watching. Now go pick up your horn, work through the handouts, and start putting these concepts into action. I'll see you in the next video. Happy practicing.